Today is Monday, July 8th, 2024. This is episode 137 of the Tech Jawn from Columbus, Ohio. I'm your host, Robb Dunewood.
And coming out of Philly, it's your girl Tech Life Steph.
And out of Atlanta, this is Terrance Gaines, a.k.a. Brother Tech, a.k.a. whatever you do, don't buy an old house. And if you do buy an old house, just be prepared to always have projects. I've got electricians and plumbers in the house today trying to do things. I've got old copper piping that's popping pinhole leaks. So we had to spend that big money and have them come and replace all the plumbing in the house. Just the supply lines and return lines to the sinks. Mm-hmm. So all that is copper, which sounds good until every couple months you spring pinhole leaks that leaks through your drywall and leaks through your drop ceilings. So we had enough of that. So earlier this year, we finally broke down and said, all right, we got to replace the pipes. So the guy is out this week and tearing up the house. I got drywall holes everywhere throughout the house. And then I've got women in the house who are asking me every 5 minutes, can I use the sink? I can't cook nothing. Can I take a shower? No, the water is off. Stop asking me different ways to try to use the water that is turned off. So I got to deal with that. So it's a whole thing. You know, this house has done us well, but at the same time, it is a money pit. Mm-hmm. You know, so.
I understand. I just got my roof redone and there was some water damage. So I had somebody in redoing drywall, painting. It's just,
I replaced the roof. It actually got replaced like in November of last year. So I just understand going through all that. It is not fun. So we're not going to turn this into an episode of This Old House. We're going to definitely do the Tech Jawn and get to some tech. But before we do, I want to let everyone know that the Tech Jawn is supported by patrons like you. So if you would like to support the show, there's a couple ways you can do it. Head over to thetechjawn.com/Patreon. We've got multiple tiers over there, any one of which gets you access to our live stream and after party. And a couple of those tiers get you access to an ad-free stream if you'd like to listen on your RSS catcher without actually having to go through ads. So once again, head over to patreon.com/thetechjawn or thetechjawn.com/Patreon. They both work, and we appreciate anything you can do for us. So we're going to go ahead and get right into some tech. And this is a story that, I am excited to see where tap to pay is going to go. But I read an article last week and they were talking about this new, new version of tap to pay, for lack of better words. It's called Multipurpose tap. And what it will allow you to do is, instead of just paying when you tap your phone or tap your watch, you'll be able to do multiple functions. So you'll be able to, let's say, pay for alcohol and get carded simultaneously from just one tap. Or you could tap and you could automatically pay and automatically get your rewards if you have a rewards program, or just something as simple as just getting a receipt automatically. Simply by just tapping when you pay, it automatically gives you a receipt. And there's a bunch of other things that you would potentially be able to do. So I looked at that because I am a fan of tapping to pay. I use it. I wouldn't say exclusively, because there's still times when you have to, put a card in something and have somebody walk away with it. All there are ways to get around that as well. But pretty much whenever I am going to an NFC terminal, I use my phone or my watch to pay. So I thought this was just a cool story. And I didn't even realize that, tap to pay was as pervasive as it is, because now most Americans actually use it more than they use cash or checks. So are y'all on board yet? Are you with most Americans? Or are you still old schooling it with change, paper dollars and stuff like that?
I still pay for quite a bit with money. It's so funny. I eat and drink a lot of Starbucks, and I do order through the app quite a bit, because the one Starbucks I go to most frequently is only a pickup location. So I have to order through the app, but I just started using it to pay for my stuff at other Starbucks, because I realized I wasn't getting my points for my free stuff. I was like, wait a minute, I could be scanning and paying and getting my points to get free stuff from Star. So that's the only instance that I'm using my phone to pay for anything. Not the biggest fan of that. You know, who knows if that'll change, but I'm just not the biggest fan of that. I'd much rather pull out a card. I mean, I don't mind having like e-tickets and different stuff like that, but but when it comes to paying, I mean, I use Apple Pay. I'm not gonna lie, like in online, if I'm, because TikTok Shop got me in a chokehold right now. I just be like, oh yeah. So I'll use Apple Pay for stuff like that. But in a store, I don't know. There's just something, maybe it's just the muscle memory of pulling out, a credit card or a debit card or whatever. I just don't typically use my phone for stuff like that.
I'm a fan, but I'm also not a proponent of you putting or let me speak for myself. I'm not a fan of entering my credit card in the service that I'm using. Like, for instance, Stephanie, you mentioned Starbucks. Me and my wife regularly are at Chipotle, maybe once a week, right? They have it to where you can save your credit card to their wallet. So you can use the Chipotle app to scan and get your rewards, similar to
Mm-hmm.
like what you do, but you can also use the Chipotle app to pay for stuff. I'm not a fan of that. I would rather use Apple Pay because I am personally, without any sort of empirical data or research, I am a fan of Apple's security more so than I would be of Chipotle. So I'll use Tap to Pay and I'll create a Chipotle account and I'll add the little rewards card to my phone. So when I want to get the points, I open up my wallet, flip to the Chipotle tag, I scan that, and they say, oh, the price will be whatever it is. Then I'll flip to my credit card in Apple Pay and then scan again for that, which is kind of a two steps, which
Mm-hmm.
is what, if I'm understanding, what most people are doing is they're using, well, this technology, you'll be able to simultaneously do the verification of ID, scan your reward points, and pay for it in just one scan. I don't know if I'm that far yet, but I am okay with doing multiple scans. But again, my credit card information, my money, I'd rather that stay on the credit card, or I'm okay with using Apple Pay with that. But I'm not I'm slowly, if I do have some accounts saved like that, I'm slowly backing those out because as more Apple Pay becomes more prevalent, ain't no sense in me having my credit card stored in multiple accounts, multiple companies, multiple brands, because they can't keep our data safe anyway, because there's always breaches and hacks. So it's like, all right, if somebody's going to breach something, they're going to have to breach Apple to get my stuff. They ain't breaching Chipotle and getting all my credit card information
Right.
when all I do is eat Chipotle, right? Let me put that in Apple. If y'all want it, y'all go get Apple, and I'm okay with them trying to get that.
This story that I pulled off of The Verge was specifically talking about NFC and this new multi-purpose tap. But as I said, as I started looking into it, just started thinking about just using other things other than money to pay for stuff. So, I came across this article in eMarketer that was talking about, and I mentioned this earlier, that most Americans, 53%, use digital payments more often than cash, checks, and credit cards. And PayPal is still number one. Now, the way that this gets to 53% of people is that we are in the United States and North America and on Earth, we are now ordering everything and having everything shipped to the house. So what a lot of people are doing is that when you go to a particular retailer or merchant online, instead of putting your credit card number in, you just pay with PayPal. So you have one thing that you're going to use to pay for all of this stuff, as to having to go to Temu and put your credit card number in, and go to Shein and put your credit card number in, and buy something off of Facebook Marketplace and put your credit card number in. You do everything with the PayPal and kind of go from there. So that gets a lot of people doing it. But then besides PayPal, just the number of people that are using, like Steph, like you're doing the Starbucks app, enormous amounts of people are using Starbucks apps and McDonald's app and using these single purse apps to go and pay for their purchases from specific vendors. And then you've got the transfer apps like a lot of people are now using Zelle, which Zelle is basically just your checking account for lack of better words, but it's technically considered a mobile payment or a digital payment, I should say. It's not necessarily mobile. And then people using things like Venmo and Cash App and stuff like that. So there's just a lot of folks are doing this. And I knew that it was catching on more. I see more people doing it. I was a very early adopter, being able to do some things before even tap to pay was a thing with Samsung, when they actually had, I think it was called MST, where they could actually fake a credit card swipe.
They don't do that anymore.
They don't do that anymore just because NFC is now so prevalent. They just don't need to put that technology and license it to stick it in the phone. So they stopped doing that. I want to say with I think the S20 might have been the last phone for them to actually do that. So we're going on 4.5 years ago that they stopped doing that. So it's just an interesting, story that I thought that, that it looks like mobile payments and NFC payments and just digital payments are definitely here to stay. The thing that also made me raise my eyebrow was when it said that you could automatically get carded while you're paying for alcohol. And I'm like, well, in order for that to work, you've got to actually have the ability to have a digital ID. So I'm like, well, there's only like 2 or 3 places that have digital ID. Oh, was I wrong? It's just not where I'm at yet. But it's more than half the states either have it or are in the process of trialing it or have admitted that they will trial it within like the next 12 to 18 months.
And we all know how secure old ass state government systems are. So why wouldn't we just have all of our information there? It's funny. The last sentence in the Verge article, got my eyebrow up. And I think we had talked about it before, but it linked to another one of their articles about what kind of problems this can cause. And it linked to the article where Target knew that somebody was pregnant based on their shopping history and all these different data points it had collected. And it was just,
and then to make it even worse on that story, the father found out that the daughter was pregnant before the daughter could tell the father that she was pregnant because of all the stuff that you mentioned. So now you're talking about HIPAA and all kinds of stuff. So it's a mess. It can be a mess.
And that's the thing. It's like this.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, this goes back to where you have your data stored, right? Some of these apps like Target, they make it super convenient to give them all your data. And we do it because they offer rewards and make it easier. And then some people actually like the customized experience of, them suggesting things that based on your shopping habits, based on your purchase history. Oh, you might like this, or maybe this will be on sale like that. But again, it has to be not just the banks and the merchants and the states. It also has to be the people actually using the data to keep their stuff up to date, up to code, secure. Because it's one thing to say, oh yeah, all my money is in whatever the case may be. And then you go to some rinky dink gas station who then somebody then hacked or whatever the case may be, and then you still with these issues. Now, digital payments are a little bit safer when you go to those. But again, we are relying on both the merchant we're relying on the credit card merchants, and we're relying on the point of sale machines to all sync up. And just America, that ain't ain't there yet.
We put a lot of faith. We put a lot of faith in a lot of people,
right, to simultaneously make this work.
Yes.
This new multi-purpose tap, which is a concept, is not something that exists yet. It was proposed by the NFC Forum. That is the nonprofit consortium of tech companies. And it's like Microsoft and Apple and Google and Sony. So big companies are behind it. So they haven't actually done anything yet. They're just saying that, we could do these kind of things. So, Steph, you brought this up, Terrance, you expounded upon it. The downside of this is that you're giving merchants all kinds of data. You are making it really easy. When I first read this story, it was last week, and I actually was getting ready to do Daily Tech Headlines. So when I went and I researched it, I even said when I did that little 45-second read of it for Daily Tech Headlines last week, that the downside of this is that you're giving the companies way too much power. You're making it way too easy for them to track you. So it's one thing when you say, I really like getting these rewards from Starbucks. I'm willing to put my information in Starbucks because I go there and it's a benefit to me. But this is going to allow you to do that for everybody. So it'll be everybody's going to want to sign up. Hey, you want to give me your information? You want to give me your information? And my gut tells me that many, many people will, without even thinking about all the data that you're giving away.
And then, I mean, and at the end of the day, I mean, security risks aside, you're just going to be inundated with ads. Once they have this information and everybody's, oh, it's convenient and I don't have to pull out my little plastic rewards card at, Giant or, Panera or whatever, and I can do all the things. They're going to use this as a way to just inundate you with ads. So
it's going to remind me of it reminded me of a mashup of Minority Report and Ready Player One.
Yeah,
where you can't even walk down the street to where they've gotten all the holograms.
Do it, yeah.
You
hologram ads going to be in your face.
You can't even sit in the crib. It's like you're sitting there eating a box of cereal and just feed your ads right there on the box from I remember that from Minority Report. I'm like, I thought how cool that would be until I thought about it. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Not necessarily in my house like that.
And they don't want you to opt out. They don't give you the option to opt out. So they automatically opt you in and be like, oh man, what you want to get out? Go through these 50,000 screens.
And they still don't do it.
Right.
So in the future, will you have to do like Tom Cruise did, and how a lot of folks are
Put
going
somebody else's eyeballs in your eyes?
Yeah, get your eyeballs swapped. We'll get your eyeballs swapped out so you don't get ads. Be like getting one of them bootleg BBLs or something like that to
burn your
booty,
fingerprints off, all of that stuff. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's going to be a bunch of ads.
Yeah. So, Steph, you and I were in the rundown at the same time, and we were looking at the same story, and you stuck this in there right as I was getting ready to stick it in there. This one is an article about Morehouse College and what they have done. They're launching a 3D AI teaching assistant. And you wrote this, is this the future of higher education? So I'm going to let you go and set the story up because I got some questions on this one. This one kind of bothers me.
It's interesting. So Morehouse College is launching what is reportedly the world's first fully spatial AI teaching assistants. After launching their Metaversity in 2021, Morehouse is taking the next step in technology-based learning. So Musina, I hope I'm pronouncing her name properly or their name properly, Musina Morris is a senior assistant professor in education and the Metaversity director at Morehouse. So she got with some faculty and she's teaching a class this fall with a spatial 3D AI TA. So students can expect to receive support from the AI TAs who will manage assessments and office hours, ensure 24/7 access, and offer 3D demonstrations. So, I mean, I can appreciate wanting to be at the forefront of this technology in doing this. I don't know that Morehouse specifically, their technology is quite there yet because I clicked the link to check out their Metaversity and it leaves a lot to be desired. I don't know that that would be an ideal learning environment for me to get help in. And I know maybe for a lot of other students as well. But then also is it putting real TAs out of work? Some TAs, that's how they're able to go to grad school and pay for grad school and earn a living and be able to continue their studies while, so it's just like, is this putting human TAs out of work? So I think that's the bigger picture for me as well.
Right. And is Morehouse hooking their whatever the phrase is to a trend in the metaverse that won't necessarily be a trend? It sounds like to me when Facebook changed their name to Meta, or Meta became the parent company, and what's the CEO? What's his name?
Mark Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg was gun-ho on the metaverse, and there were a lot of other companies that followed Meta's, idea in the metaverse. Sounds like Morehouse did it too. But now they've got to put up because they've invested all the money, and it's like, all right, now we gotta develop something.
We need a solution, a problem for this solution that we paid for.
Because we've already paid for it. So we've got to quote unquote launch this thing, whether it is perfect or not. Hopefully it gets better, because I personally not on the level of education, but on a smaller level, like customer support, I am quick to open up the chat. A lot of the businesses, when you open up a website on the lower right hand corner, uh, hey, my name is so and so, assistant. If you're having any issues, let me know. And when I'm going to a website and I see that pop up and I'm actually experiencing an issue, I am one of those people that will start that chat because one, I hate talking to people.
Mhm.
And two, most of my problems, a lot of the problems, I think they're a simple solution. So it's like, all right, let me figure out the quickest way possible without having to interact. What is the fastest
Mhm.
way to kind of get this process started and then hopefully even solve the problem? So I'll start with the chat thing. And if that's an AI chat, I mean, as long as it solves my problem, I'm not really tripping. Now, if I got a bigger problem, then I want to talk to somebody. But if it's just like a simple question or something like that, I'm more inclined to utilize chatbots, or maybe even in this case, if I've got a question about some homework or a report or whatever the case may be, and I really don't want to talk to anybody, I could see typing, chatting, I ain't gonna put on no headphone or no virtual reality or nothing like that to talk to the TA. But if there's a way to interact with this person to solve basic questions before I get to a bigger problem, I would do it. I don't know about the whole metaverse part, I guess is what I'm getting to.
Right.
So, Terrance, I had your exact thought about I don't really need a 3D avatar for this. If I'm
Mhm.
able to type a question and get my question answered and it's answered by AI, that works today. I don't see why it wouldn't work tomorrow. So I would be okay with that. Here's where I would tend to have an issue. So I was fortunate to learn very, very early on when I was in college, all the way back in the early 90s, that talking to TAs helps you do better in class. Going to office hours absolutely helps you do better in class because you're actually able to go and learn by asking questions and getting them answered in a one-on-one or a one-on-a-few as compared to some giant lecture hall. The other part of it is that you are putting a face to your name for your instructor, for your professor,
Mm-hmm.
for your TA, and you're building a rapport with them and they get to know you, you get to know them. I kid you not, I had a class in college where someone told me you need to go to office hours, and you don't go just because you're struggling and you need help. Go before you struggle. Go as soon, the first office hours, go introduce yourself to the professor. If nothing else, just look at it like a networking event. Go where you can
Right.
have a one-on-one with your professor and let you know who they are. Well, this particular professor, for anyone who came to office hours at least 4 weeks out from an exam, he gave you the answers to the exam because his mantra was, I'm not here to make you memorize. I'm here to help you learn. So we're going to have an exam on this in about a month. Here's all the questions I'm going to ask.
I would have loved a professor like
But
that in grad
what he
school.
didn't do was he didn't do that like the week or 2 weeks. I think it was like, he would pull that stuff down a month out from the exam.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to go to office hours before you felt like you needed them. And it was just kind of a cool thing. Like, hey, and he didn't even care if you told people. It's like, people know you can go get the answers if you just go to office hours and do it. So I don't want to see that go away. I don't want to see I implore with my young one who is in college right now. Every time you get a new professor, the first time you can go to office hours, go meet them, build rapport, know who they are, make sure they know who you are, and use that to do what you do. And I would hope that this, as you were saying, Steph, that we don't want to see TAs lose their jobs, but I don't want to see that opportunity to just build rapport with a professor or instructor or TA that could ultimately help you when you are, like, here's the thing, you go to office hours, and this is probably not the right thing or the exact way to do things, but you go to office hours, your professor knows who you are, and you had a 92.6%. Well, they'll find some extra credit so for you to round that up to the 93 to get you to A. That just kind of happens. But if they don't know who you are, there's no reason for them to even think about you in that way. So I just wouldn't want to see this type of program put someone out of a job or take the opportunity for students to have that interaction, that one-on-one or one-on-few interaction with their instructors. And the other part, like I said, Terrance, I don't need a 3D avatar. Give me like a WhatsApp window or, a text message where I can just type what I want and then you respond back to it. I don't need to see you in 3D. I'm definitely not putting on goggles in order for this to work.
Well, to your point too, Terrance, it does appear like, they got a grant and for like, 30 VR headsets. And
Gotta
now we
show
got
that
to figure
work.
out, well, yeah, we got to figure out what we're doing with these, because we got to show that we're using them for the intended purposes that we wrote in this grant. They got, Victory XR is the company they're working with. They launched the Metaversity in the first place, and now they're working to launch the AITAs. And like I said, I could kind of see some benefit, especially on the demonstration part. I agree with both of you in the idea that you could just use a chat bot and type your questions in. But if there's like a demonstration kind of thing that you want to see happen, if it's a class with a lab, this particular professor teaches inorganic chemistry, so I could definitely see putting a headset on and watching an experiment happen, or something like that. I definitely get it. It still feels a
Is
little bandwagony.
Yeah, the
Um,
metaverse, is that the real thing? Is
yeah,
that going to be the future?
little trendy, little
Mhm.
bandwagony. I mean, but I'd rather us be on the bandwagon on the front end than trying to
Yeah,
catch up on the back end. So,
that's true.
for whatever it's worth, like, do y'all thing. I ain't mad.
And these kids nowadays, they're antisocial. So it's like things change. So the schools and universities are going to have to adapt. And if it feels
Mhm.
more comfortable for a kid to, be in their dorm room, with some glasses or a headset or in an AR, whatever the
But
case may be.
but do we really want to, I don't
Look,
want to say encourage,
I'm
but
not saying
it's
that's
like,
the way it's going. So
but
it's like,
where
what do
does
you
it
do?
where does it end? Like, are we just never going to interact with each other ever
I don't
again in
know.
life? Like, humans just stop interacting with each other in real life? Like, is that where we're going?
I
Is
don't
that what
know.
we're
I
doing?
mean, that's what Wally and them said. Wally and them said we gonna sit on our little
That's
couches with the
crazy to
setups.
me. Like,
That's where it's going. It's
and
like, what
trust
are
me,
we?
I'm not downplaying mental health, and I know people have anxiety and all of that, but
Mhm.
shouldn't we be trying to move past that and give you coping mechanisms and tools to help, and as opposed to enabling you to continue to isolate? And I don't know, that just seems so counterintuitive and
Yeah.
so counter societal
There's
to me.
there's that, and I promise you this: Morehouse is not charging less tuition because you're not going to a human TA as compared to going to a virtual
Okay.
one. I promise you that's not going to
Mhm.
happen.
Absolutely not. You still
And
gonna be
I'm
paying.
not saying that to pick on Morehouse. It could be Morehouse, it could be Spelman, it could be any HBCU, it could be any historically white college. They're not going to charge you less because you use automated means as compared to using humans. That's not how they operate. They're going to charge you more regardless of what you do, pretty much darn near every year.
I know. What are we gonna do? Saray says, you realize that's how I'm interacting with the tech, John.
But you see real people.
I'm
Right,
saying
you see real
it's
people.
actually us. Yeah, I mean, it's just technology connecting us, but we're all here having a conversation with each other, with human beings. We're not chatbots that are delivering this tech news. You know what I mean? It's just I don't know. It makes me sad to think that there could come a time when none of us interact with each other at all in real life.
Well, and that's maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's not like physical, right? Maybe it is like the way we're doing now, and we do this for everything. We do it for doctor's appointments. We do it for, going to get your driver's license renewed. Instead of going to the DMV to stand in line, you are in a virtual queue with your little headset on, and then that person asks you the same questions. You just submit it electronically. I mean, evolution. I don't know. This is where it's
Not
going.
is that evolution? Is that
No,
evolution
no,
though, or
if
is it
if
something
we,
else?
if we are evolving to something else, it's
that
evolution.
was
Now it may be going
now
backwards.
this is worldwide health crisis because I have started watching like online court to where it's regular court with a judge, a court reporter, all that stuff. And it's real court
Mhm.
cases. We're not talking about like reality TV court. This is real court with people who are really locked up. But the pandemic kind of created situations to where we still need to have these court dates, but we can't just have people waiting for a court date and the court's not open. We've got to figure out a different way. And they decided, oh, that kind of worked. And they haven't really stopped it. So now you can literally go and watch like old court cases where they have been done virtually. So that genie is not going back in that bottle. But as I said, I want to be able to deal with a human when I am talking to a professor or to a teaching assistant or to an instructor or whatever the case is. That's just me. And I would hope that a lot of students are doing that, because there are definitely benefits. I can tell you I have.
I mean, I'm the one, calling customer service talking about representative. I'm not pressing no button. I'm not pressing 2 for nothing. I'm like, representative. I want to talk to a person. Sorry, not
Please,
sorry.
can I get to a human? Please, please, pretty please.
I'm just hitting that 0 the whole time. 0. Like, you going to connect me to somebody. I don't care.
So you guys know how I always
Anywho.
say that the internet is a wonderful, horrible place. Well, let's talk about how it could be horrible. And this is not horrible adults doing things to kids. This is horrible kids doing things to adults. I
Badass
saw this.
kids.
This is crazy. So we've got students at a school system, and this is somewhere in Pennsylvania, I believe.
It's a suburb of me.
Yeah,
That's
so-
why I put it in here, because I saw it a couple days ago. I was like, holy, this is 30 minutes, not even 30 minutes, like 20 minutes from my house.
But yeah, these middle schoolers, so we're talking about 7th and 8th graders, basically a gang of middle school kids have started going out and creating fake videos, not videos, but fake TikTok accounts. And they're impersonating their teachers and just putting out all kind of scandalous stuff, racist stuff and homophobic stuff. And this and that and the other. And it's like, this is
pedophilia
horrible.
type stuff. It's absolutely horrible. So this was at Great Valley Middle School. It's in Malvern, Pennsylvania, which is a Philadelphia suburb. And 22 teachers were attacked in this way by a group of students who put together. They would claim it was parody or satire, or they were just jokes. But you can't put this kind of thing out there and not expect people for it to be blowback. I mean, you're damaging the reputation of these humans who, everybody is not as digitally literate to understand that this is not a real account. They were taking pictures from these teachers' actual Facebook pages, pictures of these teachers' families, their children, and putting these accounts together and making it seem like some of the teachers were hooking up with each other, or, like I said, like they were pedophiles, or they were saying homophobic or racist things. And it was just ridiculous. And it really, it kind of really damaged the morale of the faculty at this school, to the point where I think some of the teachers have left. And also, not even just that these kids did this, there really wasn't necessarily a consequence. No, there wasn't a consequence.
Gotcha.
It says because this made the New York Times. This story was locally here, but it also made the New York Times. And one of the paragraphs that stood out to me: in the aftermath, the school district briefly suspended several students, teachers said. The principal, during one lunch period, chastised the 8th grade class for its behavior. So that sounds like the only repercussions these kids have had for doing something like this. And later on in the article, they talked to a couple 13-year-old girls. I don't know if they were involved in this particular instance, but they were basically like, we're just gonna make the accounts private the next time we do it. The teachers need to be able to take a joke, ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what is this is the kind of thing that enrages me, honestly. Just absolutely. This is why I do the work that I do. This is why I wrote the book that I wrote. And it just enrages me that these kids are being allowed to do this, because they're not being taught necessary. I don't know that you can teach empathy. The article went into how they're not empathetic and all that. I'm not even about that. They're not even understanding what this is going to do to them, and that's the thing. It's like, we're not preparing our young people with enough digital literacy to understand that this is going to come back on your ass too. You think it's cute now, and you think it's funny and a joke now, but this is actually going to come back on your ass too. So, your digital footprint, to let the tweet, it's not going to go away. And it just irks me and breaks my heart that the kids don't know any better, because they're not being taught better.
Right. And in addition to that, I am, I guess, saddened by the fact that there is no reason. Like, I could see I can understand if the kids felt like they had to retaliate because the school, because the system, because these
This
particular
one teacher,
teachers
right?
are doing this and that and this and that, and we've tried to reach out to so and so, and nobody, heard our cries, so we gonna have to play dirty. And it's the only way we're gonna get y'all attention is if we do these crazy things, and then in the story, the kids say, well, what are we supposed to do? The teachers don't teach us. They're not in the class half of the time. They just yelling at us and pointing fingers at us and making fun of our clothes. And so the only thing we could do is this stuff. That ain't none of that.
None of it.
The teachers are trying to do their best. They ain't making enough money to teach you little
And
badass
this is
kids.
a wealthy Philadelphia suburb. This
Right.
school is not some inner city underfunded,
Deplorables.
right.
Quote,
Like
quote,
whatever stereotype you want to try to come up with a certain type of student and a certain demographic of student. This is not that. This is Mount Vernon, Pennsylvania is a very wealthy suburb of Philadelphia. And these students have every advantage and the best of everything and should ostensibly know better. And to your point, they don't. And they still out here acting wild and doing whatever they want.
With no repercussions, like you said.
With no repercussions.
Immediate repercussions.
Right.
So we are lucky listeners and watchers of the Tech Jawn, because we have an expert sitting right in between me and Terrance with a book over her right shoulder. And I want to ask this question, Steph. Is this not cyberbullying?
It absolutely is.
So why are they not using whatever, if they would have done this to other students and they found out who these kids were, it wouldn't be talking about suspension. These children would have been expelled, maybe kicked out of the school system for the level of depravity that they actually, went through. And the fact,
well, Stephanie told you why. Because they some entitled rich kids.
So here's the other part.
Who don't get any sort of repercussions.
If I was one of them teachers who was affected by this, there will straight up be a defamation of character suit going at these children and their parents for what they.
I think we're going to see it.
They literally are making teachers look like pedophiles. And even though this is not true, this is one of the things, it's going to stay with them forever, because you're going to have people who are just going to wonder, kids would normally just do something like this.
And not even like, let's take the people that are going to wonder and the whispers and the you've now created a digital footprint for that teacher by linking their name to an account with this type of content in it, means that every time that teacher's name gets Googled, that information will be recovered. Fake or not, true or not, malicious
plausible
or not,
you've
done some really irreparable harm and damage to this person's reputation by doing this. Like, even if that search result is on the 10th or 15th page of their Google search, it's still there. It's always going to be there. It's always going to be there. And so you've now done, and so I agree with you, Rob. I think these teachers should sue, these parents should sue the school district for not taking enough action against this. Like, somebody needs to pay to get these kids to understand what they're doing. And I actually have reached out to this school. I'm not, trying to capitalize or anything, but this is what I do. So, I think with the proper understanding, because I've seen it, I've done it, I've talked to enough kids to know that with the proper understanding of digital footprint and how it does not go away, behaviors do change. I mean, it's too late now to erase the internet of what y'all did to these teachers, but maybe you won't do it again and won't do it to anybody else. But it just burns me up completely. If they call me and I go in there to talk to them kids, you best believe I'm coming with that heat, and I'm giving it to them. I'm giving it to them. I can't wait. I cannot wait. I'm giving it to them.
This is horrible, because I'm just thinking, if like, I started reading through comments and and just other articles, the stuff that these kids did to these teachers is criminal. And it's like, I would imagine that there's going to be quite a few defamation of character suits and whatever else they can sue for this, particularly if these students are in an affluent suburb of Philly.
Right.
So,
and I can't blame them. I cannot blame them. I'm like, you got to learn. You one way or the other, you got to learn. Hope. And it's unfortunate that I, to this day, still only ever get brought in when something like this happens. I'm always coming in after somebody got cyberbullied, after somebody attempted suicide, after 22 teachers get like, we need to really focus on this type of literacy training right out the gate. You know what I mean? This needs to start happening third, fourth, fifth grade, before they even get phones, before they, get on the internet, good, because they need to understand that there are consequences to every single thing you do online, and they about to learn. They about to learn today.
Yeah.
Seriously.
This one, like I said, internet, it can be wonderful, but it can be horrible. This is, like I said, you just don't think that you have to protect adults from children. It's almost always the other way around.
And
But
now with
no,
AI, we're going to see worse.
These are somebody's babies. And when they got caught, were just so
Here we go. Here's the quote from the two. Last month, 2 female students at the school publicly posted a quote unquote apology video on TikTok, on a TikTok account, using the name of a 7th grade teacher as a handle. The pair, who did not disclose their names, described the imposter videos as a joke and said teachers had blown the situation out of proportion. Quote, "We never meant for it to get this far, obviously," end quote. One of the students in the video said, quote, "I never wanted to get suspended," end quote. Quote, "Move on, learn to joke," end quote. The other student said about a teacher, quote, "I am 13 years old," end quote. She added, using an expletive for emphasis, "and you're like 40 going on 50, end quote.
Yeah, lawsuit.
So they don't give a damn.
Nah,
basically.
their parents are about to be sued. And something tells me that they will
within
settle.
an inch of their life, I would sue them to high heaven. I don't care, kids or not. I would sue them, the parent, everybody would be named up in that lawsuit, because you've done irreparable damage to my reputation at this point. I can't get that back. I can't. It's the internet.
No.
I can't get that back. It's not a joke. It's not a joke.
That's why people are able to, when you defame someone, that's why they can come after you financially, because of exactly what you just said. Once that stuff is out there, you can't take it back.
You can't take
and
it back.
I mean, we just saw this happen with Fox and the Dominion voted. Fox kept saying that Dominion was doing what Dominion was doing. Dominion wasn't doing anything that Fox was saying. Fox had to pay them hundreds of millions of dollars because they were defamed. So this is one that we'll have to pay attention to, because you're local to it. Let us know if there's any developments in this.
I'll let you know if I go to Great Valley Middle School to talk to these kids and do one of my presentations, because it's Lord, I'm a pray that I can maintain some decorum and some composure, because boy, this is crazy. This is absolutely nuts. And like I said, the fact that the school seems to be doing very, very little right now, I think hopefully there'll be a little bit more outrage, and enough outrage that, some other more significant consequences happen. But right now, the fact that you just suspended a couple kids for a couple days, that's not good enough. That's not good enough at all.
So, y'all, this last story that we're going to talk about this week is, we could have titled this, "Is Microsoft Tripping?" But Microsoft CEO of AI, I believe the gentleman's name is Mustafa Suleyman. He basically said that any content posted online is freeware and can be used for AI training unless a content producer explicitly says otherwise. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So what was funny in the original, and Steph, I don't know what happened to the original article, but in the original article, I think it was, I can't even remember the name of the site. It was like a Windows site or something like that. But they actually
I saw it on Apple News.
They actually went and grabbed images off of this guy's personal website and said, per what he said, how his content can be used. They just used his images without, they gave him attribution and everything like that. But I think they were kind of making a point that, no, you can't just go grab content and use it however you want, unless somebody says it is specifically, cannot be used for this reason. And one of the things that the articles are saying is that, well, AI wasn't like a thing years ago. So if you didn't know that AI was coming, how could you actually go specifically say that AI can't scrape my website if that wasn't like a common thing, which kind of makes you think. I don't know what leg he is able to stand on ethically. Legally, I don't
Well,
know. Maybe he's right, but this is
I feel
interesting
like
to me.
he's using fair use
Right.
as a blanket catch-all for what he's trying to do. And you know, don't get me lying about the exact terminology and phrasing of fair use, but there's something called fair use. There, it's a whole term. It's more than just fair use is like the abbreviation, but it's basically saying that if you use something on, not even just on the internet, but just if you're using something that is out there in the general population, you know, whether that be music or songs or, you know, whatever, as long as it's not necessarily copyrighted, um it's fair use. And I think they are, I think he's hoping that he's going to be able to get away with fair use, and that enough creators won't have the resources to go after him to say no, you can't use my stuff. And it's messed up.
Well, it also denotes to me that, and he mentions it, the social contract of that content since the 90s has been fair use. So he's also, in my opinion, alluding to the fact that the government, our laws need to catch up with technology and how things are, because again, I guarantee you these companies are using these old models, these old laws, and the fact that they haven't mentioned anything about, you know, IP and the training generative AI that didn't even exist when most websites was put up. So he's kind of like saying, "Oh well, I mean, change the rules."
Nobody said anything. Right. I'm gonna
Right.
get away with it for as long as I can get away with it.
Until y'all do something
Mhm.
about it. This is the social contract until the social contract
You
changes.
didn't tell
And
me I
most
couldn't take this money off the counter.
Right.
right,
So
exactly.
I'm just for you know, uh explanation purposes, fair use is the doctrine that brief excerpts of copyright material may, under certain circumstances, be quoted verbatim for purposes such as criticism, news reporting, teaching, and research, without the need for permission from or payment to the copyright holder.
Mhm.
So I could totally see him pulling that research uh, term out of that definition and saying, well, this is for research. We're training our machines and we need the research and da 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 da. So yeah, he's gonna get away with it until the government tells him he can't.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And ask for forgiveness and not permission.
And it also says, just one more thing, most people posting content online as individuals will have compromised their rights in some way by
Mm-hmm.
accepting the terms of service agreements
Mm-hmm.
offered by major social media platforms, yada, 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 so on and so forth. So it's like half of it, not half of it, it's a combination of, we need to change how we post online. Read between the lines. Quit posting every goddamn thing you do. And then number two, we need to change how companies, corporations, individuals can use this data. If it's cause training generative AI, that's fine. We need policy needs to catch up, and it is severely behind.
Mhm.
And you know, they was all quick. Everybody was quick to put that little line disclaimer in their TOS, you know, or
All
their
these emails. Hmm.
user license agreement. Oh yeah, also training AI. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
everybody, whether they had some sort of AI going on or not, threw that line in there. You know, as soon as ChatGPT exploded, everybody
Hmm.
put that thing in their TOS just to cover their, just to CYA basically. And so now if we want to continue to use the platforms, we just asked out.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm just thinking he didn't specify a specific type of data. He said content. So I'm thinking,
All of it.
you know, you're a photographer and you go and you take a bunch of pictures and you put them up on something like a Flickr or something like that. That's an old time website that I know a lot of photographers use. He's saying that, oh, because you put it up there and didn't tell me that I couldn't use it, I can just go train my train my AI on your photos just because it's there.
Mm-hmm.
That is, and here's the thing,
Some balls, I
that
tell
is
you.
unethical, but it
Yeah,
may
that
not
too.
be illegal. And that's the thing. And Terrance, you said this, our laws need to catch up to this. So like I said, he actually said it. If I don't know what he gains by saying this, because right now the internet is kind of looking at him, side eyes, like, for real, dude, this is what you think. So there are all kind of comments and, people who are posting things about how, my information can be scanned by everybody except for Microsoft. I mean, it's like, explicitly, I don't want anything that Microsoft ever does, any product, ever, to pull my content. Everybody else is good, but Microsoft, no, you're not. So
y'all can't have it.
Maybe our aunties on Facebook were up onto something when they post those posts. I do not agree for Facebook to use
any
my
permission. That's right.
Maybe they own to something.
We need
Maybe
to
we
all
start
doing that on every platform we're on.
Everything I post, I do not agree for generative AI to use this to train somebody.
That's hilarious. And just FYI too, for everybody listening, there is a Wired article on how to stop your data from being used to train AI, and they list a bunch of different platforms, from Adobe all the way down to WordPress. There's about 10 or 12 different platforms in here. There's a limit, obviously, to what you can opt out of. And I'm sure this is going to be a running list. So as more companies allow you to do that. But yeah, if you can just Google how to stop your data from being used to train AI, and Wired, and there's some things you can do to go dig into their settings and try to opt out.
I hate to be pessimistic and just be down on this kind of stuff, but there's a story floating around right now. We're not going to get deep into it, but Perplexity and their AI, let me say this, they have allegedly just completely ignored robot stack text. They basically found some gray area workarounds for how they can get. Well, you told us we couldn't get it, but you didn't tell this thing that they couldn't, and we're just going to go scan the thing that you didn't specifically say couldn't scan you. So yeah, it's this is going to be interesting just to see how this goes, because AI needs data, and people understand now that their data is valuable, and they don't want to just give that up for free. So we're going to see how this all plays out. It's not even in the coming years. It's literally in the coming days and weeks and months that we're going to see this stuff. This is an active story right now. As I said, I'm just shocked that old dude said it as boldly as he said it.
Said the quiet part all the way out loud.
You didn't have to say it. You could have just kept doing what you was doing and not actually go out there and say, "Oh, here's why we're doing it, because it's freeware." It's like, freeware, bro, for real?
Yeah.
I think he floated the idea and see who catches on to it and uses it, because if he says it and that becomes a thing, he'd be like, "See, I told y'all," So if nobody takes it, nobody takes the bait, or somebody fights against it, we were just having a conversation.
He's just having a conversation.
That's all. Exactly what he's doing. See if he can get away with it.
So y'all, we have not had a spotlight in a minute, but Steph, you stuck one in here. So can you tell us about Black Tech Nation Ventures?
Sure. I just I was looking for something because Saray had asked about a spotlight last week, and I was like, I'm gonna look for something. I'm gonna find something, because we love our Tech Jawn folk. And you too can become a Patreon at the Tech Jawn if you head to techjawn.com/Patreon. And then, you can holler at us in the comments during the live stream, and we will try to accommodate you as best we can as we do things. So this one in particular, I just picked because I was looking. I didn't really find any one person that we hadn't already talked about, number one. So I was like, I came across this venture firm, and because of what the Fearless Fund is going through and all the, heat they're getting from the Supreme Court and everything else, I thought we might highlight another venture capital firm that is working with startups of color to try to help startups of color. So let's see, Black Tech Nation Ventures. referred to as BTN.VC, a Pittsburgh-based venture firm. That was another reason,
Of course it
Pittsburgh.
was.
Shout out my hometown. A Pittsburgh-based venture firm. This is Black Tech Nation Ventures. Today announced, and today was back in February, the close of a $50 million inaugural fund. BTN.VC invests in software startups led by founders from diverse backgrounds that have historically been overlooked by venture funding. The fund believes these Black, Latinx, female, Indigenous, and LGBTQ plus entrepreneurs have the potential to generate outsized returns within the venture industry as a whole. We set up BTN.VC to equip and train a new generation of more diverse entrepreneurs and investors, said David Motley, one of 3 general partners. We are committed to providing intellectual as well as financial capital to help our founders navigate growing a successful company and opening up opportunities for future venture capitalists who are Black or diverse to participate in the industry. BTN.VC is investing in high potential founders at the seed and pre-seed stage who are building companies with technology that is driving change and unlocking outsized values in sectors including fintech, edtech, health tech, climate tech, and AI and machine learning. The firm has already invested in 10 companies in cities including Atlanta, Boston, District of Columbia, Indianapolis, New York, and Pittsburgh. These include MTech, a fintech infrastructure company, Good Find, an enterprise solutions provider for food truckers and mobile vendors, The Folklore, an e-commerce platform connecting brands from the African continent to premium retailers in the U.S., and Kloopify, provider of supply chain sustainability analytics. Multiple investments have already secured up-round follow-on funding. BTN VC expects to back 20 to 30 companies from its inaugural fund, typically seeking entry at the pre-seed and seed stages with checks in the $250,000 to $1 million range. The firm has led, co-led, and or helped complete funding rounds, and the team has built a unique deal funnel to match its investment focus, which includes diverse professional development groups, top-tier research universities, and historically Black colleges and universities. BTN.VC was co-founded in 2020 by 3 serial entrepreneurs united by a commitment to building and enabling a diverse technology ecosystem. Kelani Jasmine is a former software developer and the founder and CEO of Black Tech Nation, which is building community and resources to bridge the gap between the Black community and the tech community in Pittsburgh and across the U.S. David Motley brings extensive experience with technology and innovation-driven companies, having led a corporate venture fund and co-founded a prior private venture fund. He also co-founded the African American Directors Forum, which strives to increase representation of African American executives at the public company board level. And Sean Sebastian previously founded Birchmere Ventures, a $300 million AUM seed stage investor that led investments in almost 100 portfolio companies, attracting more than $4 billion in follow-on capital and achieving over $18 billion in market value. Included in that portfolio were 25 diverse-led startups and some of the firm's strongest performers. Blue Chip is backed. BTN.VC is backed by a range of blue chip LPs, including Alphabet, First National Bank, Mark Cuban, First Close Partners, and Bank of America.
So this is a good one. Steph, you might have actually been out this week, but Terrance and I touched briefly on this back, I think, when they initially made the announcement. And one of the things that might actually get them or keep them in the clear as compared to Fearless Fund is that they don't say they are targeting specifically this thing.
Well, they say focuses on Black and diverse technology startups.
That is true. But in their official, there was like an official release, they say that we focus on underserved communities,
right.
And they give examples
of. Right.
So they're not saying exclusively
simile.
these communities. We basically are, looking to fund underserved communities, and then they run off the things that they would like to fund. But I think that legal language may actually keep them in the clear, because they're not distinguishing, we're doing this for Black women. They're saying that we're doing this for underserved communities. Well, that could be anybody that's underserved. and then they give you the examples of what they feel that underserved communities are.
You
Well,
think that's you think
the
that's gonna
press
stop them?
release, I think so. The press release says BTNVC invests in software startups led by founders from diverse backgrounds that have historically been overlooked by venture funding. So I think that covers both pieces of it. So, because a white person can claim to be from a diverse background.
Absolutely.
They can be like, well, I'm neurodiverse, so that's a diverse background, or I'm whatever. They can definitely make some sort of argument for that, but they have not been historically overlooked at all. That's the piece that I think is going to keep them able to invest in us, because they have been historically overlooked, and we haven't even been historically overlooked. We're being overlooked right now. When you still look at the 0.01% of VC money that Black folks get, the case is made when you say historically overlooked. So that was very smart of them. The language matters, words matter, and I think that piece of language right there, historically overlooked, is going to be the thing that keeps them out of litigation.
Yeah, and
hopefully.
For those who are not familiar with the Fearless Fund, who is going through some legal issues right now, they actually lost an appeal. So they basically had appealed an injunction that is not allowing them to give their grants out specifically to Black women. This is going to probably end up going to the Supreme Court, if the Supreme Court will hear it.
Right.
But right now they are barred. And like the big difference is that they say we specifically are looking to do this with Black women. They are saying that we're looking to serve underserved communities like these
and I
communities.
feel like I'm hoping at this point the Fearless Fund is not just trying to make a point, because I feel like, even though there's been a lot of money spent, legal dollars, attorneys, everything else, a lot of money spent, I feel like you still could pivot your mission with this language, historically underfunded, and keep doing what you've been doing. You know what I'm saying? But hopefully it's not ego and just like we done came this far. Principle. It could, because there is a principle. There is a principle to be stood on, in the whole thing. But don't lose the war for this battle over semantics and your pride. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to get back to giving money to Black women, change the mission statement slightly, and then keep doing what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, work around it. That's America. That's what America does all the time. When they don't like the rules of the game, they change the rules and go in a different way and move the goalposts and keep it pushing. So, yes, it's wrong that this person came after you for this, but if this is a legitimate way to get around that, go ahead on, change that mission statement and keep it pushing. Seriously.
That's what I say to you.
Yeah, Terrance, you've been saying that from the jump. It's like, well, you could just reword this and go ahead and do what you're going to do and just give the grants who you want to give them to.
To who you want to give them to.
It's like, hey, isn't that funny how 99.9% of our grants go to this one group? And
that's
just
crazy.
That's
right.
Wow.
Crazy.
It's like, isn't it funny how math works? Theoretically,
and
I could take a pile of dynamite, throw some wood on top of it, blow it up, and get a house. At the end, technically, that's, I guess, mathematically possible. But whoever thought that would actually happen in this case?
Yeah, so. And I think the CFO just left. One of the co-founders and the CFO of the Fearless Fund just left the organization. So yeah, it's just like, before it gets to a point where it's just it doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, cut your losses, change that.
Play the game. Play the game.
I'd imagine that they're gonna see their court case through. Just to see what legal precedent is going to come from it if it does go as far as the Supreme Court, and if they lose, change the wording and get back to business as usual.
Yeah.
But that is going to be it for us this week, y'all, as far as this episode of the Tech Jawn. So I do want to once again put that public service announcement out there that if you would like to support the show, you can do so by heading over to thetechjawn.com/Patreon. That is the techjawn.com/Patreon, or patreon.com/thetechjawn. And anything you do for us over there, we really appreciate. So with that being said, Tech Life Steph, why don't you tell folks how they can get at you?
You can follow me all around the web at Tech Life Steph, or check out my website, stephaniehumphrey.com, where there is information about the book and about the seminar Till Death Do You Tweet.
And you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And I'm at Robb Dunewood on all the things. And we're also at the Tech Jawn on all the things. So until we meet again in a week's time, peace.
Peace.
Peace.